Coming to you from the Hudson Media Group studio, this is Talking Politics, and I am New Jersey's premier award-winning journalist, Top 50 Latino via the Latino Spirit online magazine, certainly the weapon of mass disruption in Garden State media, and without a doubt, the people's choice and the people's voice. Yes, it is me, Fernando Uribe. Folks, as we continue with the month of May, I hope you all had a wonderful Mother's Day weekend. Once again, a shout out to all the moms that make our lives better each and every day. And without a doubt, folks, one of the things I love talking about on this program is sort of exposing the ongoing disservice to journalism that we see here in Garden State media. And of course, there's one culprit that I like to pick on because they make it so blatant. And that's the subject of what I'm thinking about right now. Ladies and gentlemen, certainly I think you know how I feel about a multitude of different liberal media outlets here in the state of New Jersey, whether it be NJ.com, who keeps begging you every single time. Just check your spam folder, folks, in your email inbox, and I'm sure you'll see something from NJ.com begging you to subscribe to their wonderful content for just $1. Folks, it's not even worth wasting your data on. Or the same thing with NorthJersey.com via the Bergen Record. They too will ask you to spend some money for their content. Once again, it's not worth the bandwidth. Without a doubt, also, obviously, folks, we have outlets like, for example, the New Jersey Monitor, sort of left-leaning, virtue-signaling news sites like those. But I would argue, folks, that probably the guiltiest of all the parties is Insider NJ. And one of the things that really bothers me is that, you know what, they don't even try to hide their blatant dishonesty. Okay? They pretty much like to just sort of go out of their way and just tell you, hey, we're going to report the news, and we're going to show our bias, and quite frankly, we're going to tell you what to think. And arguably, that's not good journalism. Whenever they did practice good journalism, that disappeared a long, long time ago. But one of the things that really sort of gets my attention, and I think bothers me like anybody else, is the idea that when you look at Insider NJ and look at their mission statement, it's also a blatant lie. So I took the liberty of printing it up and wanted to read a little bit to you today just to illustrate how blatantly dishonest it is. Right, so again, when you check out their website, it'll say Insider NJ is a nonpartisan, right, website dedicated to political news in the state of New Jersey. Veteran award-winning reporter and editor Max Prezzaro, when he maybe leaves his house, who knows when that is, he has poor Fred Snowflake, a guy in his mid to late 60s, trekking up and down the state of New Jersey, going from town to town, while Max is sitting on his ass somewhere down the Jersey Shore, I don't know, failing to clean up his house and somehow editing news stories. But regardless of that, he's contractually in charge of all news content and professionally focused, but that's a joke, on making Insider NJ the Garden State's #1 trusted source for political news. An editorial board regularly offers opinion on statewide political subjects. Yeah, they offer opinion, right? Pretty garbage ones from very left-leaning virtue signalers. Of course, there's no shortage over there, right? We have Bob Hennelly, we have Jay Lasser, who, by the way, folks, and I'm a gentleman, I have no problem, wishing Jay Lasser a very happy birthday. He's a fellow Taurus like myself. So once again, happy 75th birthday to you, Jay. That's a big milestone, getting to 75. I mean, wow, man, not everybody does that. So, good for you. Of course, you have Alan Steinberg, who, again, another insufferable leftist, and John Van Vliet, and many, many others there at Insider NJ. So in the sense of, offering opinion on statewide political subjects, well, it's very slanted. But here's what's really funny. Insider NJ is committed to giving serious political power players a fair hearing, no they're not, and an interactive and dynamic forum for ideas, discussion, and political intelligence. That's not true either. We'll be out here on the streets of our cities. When? When does Max Prezzaro ever leave his house? He's pretty much bunkered down in his house like he thinks it's still 2020 and we're in the middle of COVID for some reason. But anyway, more on that later. Certainly on our cities, under the Golden Dome, and in these suburban town halls, which again, when does he ever appear at one? Fairgrounds, marketplaces, county conventions, and diner booths of political inquiry and intrigue, we will find our way into the conversation. We have the great fortune of living in a state saturated with politics. That's true, probably the only truthful statement thus far that I've read here. In an atmosphere that makes for both exciting public campaigns and elections. Also true, but that's kind of a given when it comes to politics in the state. And seemingly stagnant cycles dominated by intense backroom negotiations and deal-making. Of course, in the annals of presidential politics, we may have only given this country one native son who became president in the person of Grover Cleveland. Well, actually, it's Woodrow Wilson, but God forbid they got their information correct. But we're also the state that supplied the ring that FDR kissed when he craved the White House. We're all interested in all of it, and we'll sort it out for you respectfully, accurately, that's not true, and impartially, that's definitely not true. Usually in real time, and at all times driven by the simple proposition that good reporting makes better public servants and better informed citizens. Folks, this is, I mean, I'm reading this, and folks, I mean, you want to talk about just blatant dishonesty. That's what Insider NJ represents with this erroneous mission statement here. Okay, but I think what they should also do is add something to what makes up the bread and butter of Insider NJ, and that's whoring themselves out for money. Okay, it's bad enough that certainly, yes, they take money from left-leaning organizations and unions such as the NJEA and despicable left-wing organizations like Planned Parenthood and also the AFT. Right. So again, I get it. You publish a news site, you want to bring in, you want to bring in advertising. See, I won't begrudge you that because again, that would be me being disingenuous about talking about profiting off of advertising because I do it on a local level. So again, I don't begrudge anyone wanting to make a dollar. But this is where, folks, this is where I'm vastly different from Insider NJ. And the difference is that nobody's paying me money to submit something for publication. I'll discuss stories. Remember, I'm an award-winning opinion journalist. Okay, I'll give you my thoughts and what I feel is my position on various different topics. But no one's sending me money saying, hey, Fernando, you know what? You need to publish this, or I'm asking you to publish this. And by the way, here's a little dinero, here's a little turkey, here's a little cheese for your troubles. No, that's not what I do. But Insider NJ gladly does that. And with one specific person, I mean, maybe one of many that I don't know about, but the one egregious party, right, is fellow Rutgers alumnus, and I'm just ashamed to admit that, Patricia Campos Medina, one of the more insufferable feminists, left-wing propagandists you'll find anywhere in New Jersey media and in New Jersey activism. Now, the reason I bring this up is because, folks, what you have to understand is a news site like Insider NJ stops being impartial when they decide to take money from someone who's politically bankrupt and intellectually bankrupt like Patricia Campos Medina or any of the other organizations that she's a part of. Okay? One thing is publishing a press release. That's one thing. I will never begrudge a news site for doing that because that's part of their job. But the idea that, and again, folks, this is not misinformation. This is not me slandering anybody or defaming anybody. No, because I have the screenshots. I have the receipts on this. When you go out of your way to tell me blatantly, yeah, she gives us money and I'll publish her stuff, that's what Insider NJ GM Pete Onelia does. And again, folks, whenever you've seen him on any sort of televised appearance, if that's not one of the more insufferable faces in New Jersey media, then tell me who is. All right? Don't tell me it's me, because I'm certainly not insufferable. But folks, when you openly are telling people, hey, yeah, give me money and I'll publish whatever propaganda you want to provide me, that's what Insider NJ does now, effective immediately. Not immediately, but they've been doing it for some time. When they decide to publish the nonsense that this woman peddles. Okay? Now, certainly, the recent publication, right, of a press release was to remind us all that season 4 of Activate the Snooze Button, I'm sorry, Activista Rise Up, I'm sorry, I get the two confused because they're one and the same. Hosted by Patricia Campos Medina, and here's the recent press release. Tune in to meet special guest Monica Ramirez, founder and president of Justice for Migrant Women, co-founder of the Latinx House. Really? These are grown-ass women. Did you never take a high school biology course? There's 2 genders. What is this Latinx nonsense? El Alianza Nacional de Campesinas. I mean, wow. I mean, you want to talk about that? Folks, that's a softball right down the middle of the plate. Do I even have to say anything? Right? Empoderistas. Monica Ramirez is a change maker, transformational leader who is leading efforts to end gender violence against women farm workers and is actively fighting for Latina equal pay. So wait a minute, is it Latina equal pay or Latinx equal pay? Make up your minds, ladies. I mean, I get you're women and you can't even make up your mind about what to eat from day to day or what clothes to wear from event to event. But now, you want to go about Latina equal pay. Is it Latina equal pay, Latino equal pay, or Latinx? Make up your minds. Dios mío, Jesus. Her passion for activism and wanting to build a community for Latinas is really inspirational. But wait a minute, isn't it Latinx? So why is it just Latinas? Like, make a decision. Join us for this discussion and learn about ways you can help with these issues. Obviously, new episodes, unfortunately, drop every Thursday at 5 p.m. Now, I'm a gentleman. I did make it a point to go on the YouTube channel and give it a view. So, again, I'm pretty sure it's up to, I think, 7 views as of today, as we're filming. And, of course, she goes on to say, follow Justice for Migrant Women on all their social media platforms. I'm not going to bother telling you them because they're not worth following. But, folks, this is the blatant dishonesty that Insider NJ peddles in. So the idea, again, and we're going to go back to a very important, connotation in the mission statement, okay? Max Pizarro, the editor-in-chief, right, is contractually in charge of all news content and professionally focused daily on making Insider NJ the Garden State's #1 trusted source for political news, a non-partisan website dedicated to political news. I mean, folks. Okay, I can't even, first of all, when you watch the episode of Activate the Snooze Button, because that's pretty much what the show should be renamed. I mean, you watch even 2 minutes of that, you're falling asleep. Never mind the fact of having to look at those 2 women on your screen. I mean, that's just as equally unpleasant to your eyes as it is unpleasant to your ears, which is why you're falling asleep to begin with. But folks, I think what's really interesting here is, again, I think the importance of exposing bad journalistic practices like this one, courtesy of Insider NJ. Don't ever try to fool us again by telling us that you're a trusted source, when we all know, folks, that the most trusted source for political news in this state is the New Jersey Globe, edited by David Wildstein. Okay, there's no bias there, there's no partisanship, there's no virtue signaling like you see at Insider NJ, the New Jersey Monitor, at times NJ Spotlight News, NJ.com, the Star Ledger, NorthJersey.com, the Bergen Record. I mean, folks, even the Jersey Journal, okay, locally here, okay? If you want to go for virtue signaling, go for all of those. If you want at least competent reporting, fundamentally and ethical reporting, yeah, go to the New Jersey Globe. There's a vast difference here. But folks, again, and I will say it once again to all of you, to Mike Graham, to Ryan Graham, to Pete O'Neilly, and Max Pizarro, do us all a favor, and please be honest. Revise this immediately. Revise this as soon as possible, because what you're doing is blatantly lying to people because you're not nonpartisan. The idea, once again, folks, okay, about the fact that you are trying to make yourself a trusted source for political news, you're not trusted. There's nothing trustworthy about Pete O'Neilly. When you willingly take money because someone wants their propaganda published and you happily oblige, you are enabling propaganda, Peter. I hate to break it to you. And I know it doesn't, and I know you don't like hearing this, and I know you've blocked me on social media because you don't like hearing the truth. And I think people, when they hear truths, they'll block people out. That's fine. I'm not bothered by it. What I'm bothered by the fact is that you just sort of keep on doing this intentionally and willingly without any consequence. And there should be a consequence for you. There should be a consequence, and that's me calling you out. And I'll continue calling you out, and the rest of the Lollipop Guild at Insider NJ, Ryan Graham, Mike Graham, Max Pizarro, because you're all doing us political junkies, us political consumers, a immense disservice. You should be ashamed of yourselves. You're grown-ass men more interested in whoring yourselves out for money than publishing reputable news. That's the difference between Insider NJ and any reputable news site. Again, make a decision. Do you want to be reputable? Do you want to be trustworthy? Do you want to be transparent? Or do you want to whore yourself out for money? Folks, there's no middle ground here. It's one or the other. And it seems like Insider NJ, well, we all know what they're picking. And that's what I'm thinking about right now. And now some local stories for your consideration. And once again, a thank you to Terry West from the Jersey Journal for her reporting on this story as it pertains to the influence that is still ongoing by the Hudson County Democratic Organization. And certainly, folks, last week during Election Day, they certainly did flex their muscles. Now, of course, you can think of the Hudson County Democratic Organization as the political equivalent of the Harlem Globetrotters. It rarely loses. And when it does, the HCDO gets right back on the horse with a long winning streak. Now, the organization that has ruled the county's political landscape seems forever flexing its muscles last Tuesday night once again with convincing victories in both the townships of North Bergen and West New York, which were ultimately nonpartisan municipal elections. Now, for example, in the North Bergen election, a slate led by longtime incumbent with a stranglehold on the hearts and minds of his constituents, Nick Sacco, defeated a group headed by an eager and passionate but relative newcomer in Hudson County politics, Larry Weinstein, who coincidentally, this is Larry's third attempt at unseating Nick Sacco in the municipality of North Bergen. Mayor Sacco went on to say last week, "I would like to thank the people of North Bergen for the incredible support you have showed. We received approximately 72% of the vote, which is a remarkable number that shows how successful our administration continues to be in managing our local government and how effective our political organization is in getting out the vote. Our team has delivered so much in North Bergen in recent years, but we have no intention of slowing down." If anything, it was really a 3-1 margin. Sacco accumulated 8,097 votes to Weinstein's 3,374 votes, and the rest of the results didn't veer much, and they were a reminder that this is indeed the HCDO and Sacco's township for as long as he's willing to have it. For example, obviously, Jersey City may nearly be 5 times the size of North Bergen, but this election was important enough for mayor and ultimately gubernatorial candidate Stephen Fulop to join the victory party last Tuesday night at Waterside along the waterfront in North Bergen. After all, as chairman of the HCDO, Commissioner-elect in North Bergen, Anthony Veneri, has been one of Stephen Fulop's most vocal supporters. All right. Of course, Anthony Veneri and Stephen Fulop went to say Hudson County strong. Obviously, it's a good night across the board. With Hudson County, obviously goes New Jersey. Right. Another interesting race, though, folks, and one that was very, very, I think what many people thought was going to be the race to keep an eye on, was in West New York. And the race the race came down to former mayor during the mid to late 90s and former U.S. Representative Albio Ceres and current town commissioner Cosmo Cirillo was, many people thought was going to be closer. It actually wasn't. But it wasn't really the nail biter that many expected, given that Cirillo was already a sitting commissioner and a former favorite son of the Hudson County Democratic Organization. Much to the dismay of Team Cirillo's Ceres and his team outpolled Cirillo and his running mates by roughly a 60-40 margin. The top vote getter, Albio Ceres, had 3,936 votes to Cirillo's 2,516 votes. Coincidentally, Albio Ceres was mayor from 1995 to 2006 before he entered the U.S. House of Representatives. Certainly, for his slate, Albio Ceres has a lot of people to be thankful for, but more specifically, probably the one person he has to be immensely thankful to and grateful to forever is Union City Mayor and New Jersey State Senator Brian Stack, who coincidentally, after redistricting, would now welcome North Bergen, Secaucus, and Guttenberg and West New York into the new 33rd Legislative District. As we all know, the dinner last January of 2022, where Nick Sacco and Brian Stack sat across from each other, and Nick Sacco pretty much conceded his Senate seat to Brian Stack. A, he's not suicidal. B, he knows better than to challenge Brian Stack in a primary because he knows that Brian Stack would have absolutely annihilated him. It would have been like Godzilla versus King Kong, right? Like, it would have been absolute, just a massacre. And this is the thing, folks. Nick Sacco was smart. Stay in North Bergen, run for mayor, run for one more term, play nice, because now North Hudson obviously is under the influence and the leadership, thankfully, of Brian Stack, a guy who makes sure that constituent services are taken care of, that streets are paved, garbage picked up, turkeys are given out during Thanksgiving. Unlike in North Bergen, where I drive through a pothole every other block when I go visit my parents or I go visit, female friends or whoever. But that's North Bergen, and clearly it's not Union City. But again, folks, someone like Brian Stack obviously has considerable influence, and if it wasn't for him and his manpower, his mobilization, and the ground game that Brian Stack has come to represent in Hudson County, guess what, folks? Albio Ceres would not have won in West New York. And now with a new 33rd Legislative District, having an ally in the mayor's office in West New York is good news for Brian Stack. We'll see how these administrations play themselves out for the next 4 years, but quite frankly, one race was supposed to be a nail-biter, the other one wasn't. It turns out both of them were kind of clean runaways, and that's a surprise in 2023. And now to a very interesting editorial that came across my desk this past week, and one that I wanted to share with you, published via the Hudson County View. Once again, a thank you to John Hines for his exceptional reporting in a very, very significant story. Now, an op-ed recently published by U.S. Senate candidate Joseph Norello, coincidentally the mayor of Roselle Park, a very, very nice township down in Union County. He talks about expanding light rail and path is the best way for New Jersey to fight the congestion pricing. Okay. He goes on to say that as mayor, I understand why members of Congress and even the governor are lining up to rail against proposed congestion pricing coming from New Jersey to New York. Standing for your constituents is important, but I'm sure lots of folks in northern New Jersey are unhappy about the proposed price increases getting into New York City. Here's the problem. Fighting it is cutting off our noses despite our collective faces. Interesting. Now he goes on to say, throughout my career, I've spent a lot of time going back and forth from West New York, and of course, traffic is a nightmare. In an ideal world, Hudson County, Bergen County, and Union County need a long-term strategic plan for mass transit. Some of that should come from the MTA, and some of that needs to come from New Jersey. First off, let's expand the light rail system, which he's right about. While it won't alleviate congestion to New York City, it will alleviate arteries around Hudson County. Less cars move around New York City, and the crossings mean less traffic on the Hudson and Bergen side roads and easier access to our tunnels and bridges. He's also right about that one. I mean, can someone please explain to me how we can still in good faith call it the Hudson-Bergen Light Rail for the Hudson-Bergen Light Rail when it's not even going into Bergen County? He's also right about that. Now, we talked about it on this show. Certainly, there's been discussions about breaking ground either in 2023 or 2024 to finally expand light rail into Bergen County, coincidentally. All right? He also goes on to say, secondly, we're using our political capital in all the wrong ways. The fight with New York should not be against congestion pricing. It should be working with New York to make sure revenue from pricing goes to help New York City's neighbors to the east. If you're going to ding us for taking cars into the city, at least help us with a pathway forward to get in without a car. For example, the 7-line expansion to New Jersey is overdue, and so is the path expansion. We shouldn't have a tantrum about if and when and how congestion pricing is implemented. We should be sitting down with New York's political leadership to make sure that New Jersey sees long-term benefit from such a said policy. Congestion pricing revenue should be in part proportionally shared with New Jersey Transit and the neighboring New Jersey municipalities. If the goal is to reduce overall traffic to Manhattan during rush hour, just charging us isn't going to do it. We need more transit-free car options. Now again, folks, interesting editorial there published in the Hudson County View by U.S. Senate candidate. But let me just say this, though. He's right on a lot of points because as someone who lives up here in Hudson County, and I'm very fortunate, I have a light rail stop literally 2 blocks from my home. I can get to Hoboken probably within 7 to 8 minutes, and I can obviously take a van along Boulevard East, which runs 24 hours. And they're certainly not the most sanitary vans, let's be honest. I mean, we all know those jitney buses haven't been cleaned since President Bush was in office. The father, not the son. But in any event, folks, yes, we do need more mass transit options. The idea, and again, the suggestion was we're going to expand the Hudson-Bergen Light Rail and finish it in Bergen County. My understanding is, again, if you follow sort of the map that you see at light rail stations, you'll see that obviously the most northern point is 51st Street along Tunnelly Avenue. It'll eventually go up into 91st Street by the shopping plaza where the Walmart is, the BJ's and Sam's Club and everything else. Eventually, it will go into Ridgefield by the Ridgefield Circle. It will extend more north into Leonia, into Palisades Park, and subsequently, eventually into Inglewood and stopping its final destination at Inglewood Hospital. Now, again, if you left it up to me, I would run a light rail connection all along River Road, right from West New York, all into North Bergen, into Edgewater, ultimately finishing in Fort Lee, right? People want to take the George Washington Bridge. Maybe they don't want to drive. Maybe they'll catch a bus there. Who knows? Do that. That, I would argue, would be an incredible extension of the Hudson-Bergen light rail system. But also, too, for all of us that love going shopping on 17, extend it into parts of Bergen County like in Paramus. Folks, is there anything more insufferable during the holiday season than driving to Paramus on Route 17 to get to Garden State Plaza or Paramus Park Mall or just all the great shopping that's available on Route 17 to begin with? Again, if the light rail is available there and going through Paramus, maybe going through Hackensack, eventually finishing in Paramus, that would be amazing. That's what should be thought about. And you see, folks, I'm not even an engineer. I don't even work in government, and I thought of these solutions all by my brilliant self. Why can't our leaders in Trenton do that? It just boggles my mind, and it just drives me crazy. I'm hoping, so, as we're trying to fight congestion pricing, that these are options that are looked at. And I get it, it's going to cost some money, but again, if we shave some money from the budget, if we stop coddling illegals, if we stop with some of these ridiculous, social welfare programs that we don't need to fund anymore, quite frankly, folks, we can find the money to extend the light rail, to add more trains, right? As we know from Secaucus, let's say the 7-train expansion, more sort of expansion with the PATH system, maybe going to Bayonne, maybe going to different parts of New York City, whatever. Folks, we can find the money. We're just spending money irresponsibly. But what else is new in the state of New Jersey? Another story, courtesy of the Hudson County View, once again, thank you to John Hines for his reporting, was a recent march in the city of Hoboken sponsored by Moms Demand Action for Gun Sense in America. Now, the Hudson County branch of Moms Demand Action hosted a Mother's Day Action rally from Jersey City to Hoboken this past weekend, where about 200 people marched, calling for federal gun safety legislation. Quote, this event was a tremendous success, and I thank Craig Guy, Assemblyman Mukherjee, Commissioner Romano, and everyone else who joined us. Obviously, Hoboken Council President Emily Jabor mentioned, who's also the founder of the Hudson branch of Moms Demand Action. Quote, we organized this walk to show that mothers, parents, and all residents of Hudson County are fed up with the status quo and are demanding change. Support from Democratic leaders like Craig Guy is critical to our goal of ending gun violence. Again, that's Emily virtue signaling, and I'll tell you why she's wrong. The walk began at the Waters Soul statue on the Jersey City waterfront and continued to Sinatra Park in Hoboken. Others in attendance included Jersey City Ward E Councilman James Solomon, Hoboken Councilman at Large Joe Quintero, Hoboken Democratic Committee Chair Rachel Hodes, Hudson County Commissioner candidate Ron Bautista, and Hudson County Executive candidate Craig Guy. She goes on to say, quote, gun violence is an epidemic in our country, and I was proud to join community leaders and advocates Saturday morning to say this. Enough is enough, and it's time for Republicans in Congress to stop blocking responsible gun safety legislation like the assault weapons ban. Well, folks, again, this is where Emily and all these other insufferable moms and feminists and cat ladies drive me crazy because, folks, the majority of gun violence in this country, again, if you bother to use Google, ladies, and did a search, right, looking at data compiled by the FBI, the majority, if not completely all of the gun violence in this country is committed by handguns. Yes, I understand that there's an average about AR-15s, but folks, I'll say it again for everybody in the back. The majority of gun violence in this country is committed with handguns. Are the ladies like Emily and all these other insufferable women going to go out and say we want a blanket ban on handguns? Of course not. I'm hoping that somewhere they read the Constitution, and under the Second Amendment, we all know what's not infringed or shall not be infringed. Sweetheart, ladies, I don't know what you're doing here. Read the Constitution and read the statistics. I get it, but folks, it's not Republicans blocking any gun safety legislation in Congress, okay? There are state laws. The U.S. Supreme Court ruled on what gun rights should be, and they have. Obviously, Attorney General Platkin in this state, another virtue signaler, the Emperor Phil Murphy, and all the other leftists in New Jersey want to scare the hell out of you about AR-15s when they have around-the-clock armed security at their disposal. Once again, the majority of gun violence in this country is committed with handguns, not rifles, not AR-15s. I get it. It's unfortunate what's going on. But ladies, keep your composure and keep it in perspective. Know your facts before you go out to virtue signal out in the Mile Square City. And that's our show for this week. To check out all the excellent programming brought to you by the leader in independent media here in Hudson County, the Hudson Media Group, please go to their websites, www.hmgtvshows.com, as well as www.livestream.com/hmgtv. Don't forget to subscribe to the Hudson Media Group on Facebook, of course, and also on their YouTube page, and make sure you follow them on Instagram and Twitter. Check out my own Instagram and Twitter, folks, at the Fernando Zone, of course, like Talking Politics with Fernando Uribe on Facebook as well, and also on Instagram. Folks, brand new episodes of the 7-time award-winning podcast, Talking the Hudson, resume later this month and well into the summer by checking out blogtalkradio.com/talkingthehudson. You can download the episodes and listen to them anywhere at any time. And always remember, ladies and gentlemen, if it's unbiased, unfiltered, and unafraid, it is always Talking Politics right here with the Hudson Media Group. I am New Jersey's premier 7-time award-winning journalist, top 50 Latino via Latino Spirit online magazine, the weapon of mass disruption in Garden State media, and without a doubt, the people's choice and the people's voice. Yes, it's me, Fernando Uribe, saying so long, ladies and gentlemen, and as always, thank you so much for watching.